gonna do my intro now. You know, part of me doesn't even want to do the intro because I've had such a bad experience with YouTube lately. But you know what? I think because of how well the last video did, you guys deserved a good intro. Ahem. Alright. No, that's not it. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Alright, okay. Hey guys, Master G here, and we're back at it again with Talks with Friends, and this is not a live episode. We're here with my main man, Zealot for Christ. He's a pretty cool dude, so that's pretty great. If you can hear, I'm just going to let you guys know. If you guys hear me every now and again, a little voice that sounds like me, but it's not the real me, it's Zealot's headphones making my voice go like... So, yeah. Anyway, you'll just have to ignore it. So we're here. We're talking. How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How's your day been?
Good. How's your day been?
We're the most idiotic people in the entire world. But you know what? That's what makes our channels great.
The most idiotic people in the entire world would probably be Jacksepticeye and Markiplier.
That's you got a point. So we're here, back at it again with the talking. Just like the other videos that you've seen on my channel, and I'll explain it for the viewers on Zealot's channel. We basically sit down here for like an hour-ish, and we just kind of talk about topics. I'm actually going to put a timer so I know how long we're doing this, just so we're not like going 3 hours long. So yeah, now I got a clock going. But yeah, we basically just sit down here, we pick a topic of any sort, and we just start talking about it.
Usually predetermined.
Yeah, predetermined. So today's topic, we're talking about
Androids.
Androids and future of technology. This is all based off a video game that we heard of.
Yeah, it was Detroit Becoming Human. I had a bit of words to say about it, and he had a bit of not words to say about it. Yeah. So.
Well, basically, the premise of the game is that it's set in the future in about 2038, I believe. And it's all basically about how the world's not completely different, but technology has very much, upgraded, and they've come to the point where they have made androids. And the androids are perfect in every way. As once they're sent out, they're made for every kind of situation that arises. They can be used for pleasure, they can be used for friendship, family, cooking, cleaning, anything like that.
And I mentioned when he says pleasure, he means pleasure, like, yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah, it's basically the androids can be used for any feature. They're basically supposed to look human, but they can be... Anyway, so they basically can be used for any sort of thing that... Any idea that you can have with a human, they're basically... If you buy it, you can do it with this. But the problem that arises in the video game eventually is that the androids kind of become a little bit self-aware, and they don't want to be used as machines anymore. They just want to be treated fairly. You glitched out for a second. Say that again.
Entire premise of the game.
True. You're very right. Basically, it's just that it's not like an iRobot or like a Ultron kind of thing. It's more that they're not turning evil per se. They could if they wanted to, but it's more just that they want to be treated like humans and they want to have freedom and free will. So that's basically the topic that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about
seen iRobot?
I don't really remember iRobot. I know that there was a couple bad red ones, and then the rest of them were like blue, and then it was all about androids. I haven't seen it in years, so please don't judge me. I'm sorry.
Okay. So
yeah.
where do you want to start with this? Like where do you want to start this conversation?
Well, we could start with the obvious topic of, would this ever become possible? Like, is technology not necessarily? We'll get to the whole free will thing in a second, but let's start with, are androids without free will capable of being made eventually?
Yes, that's definitely a thing that could happen. In fact, there already are androids like that. Have you ever seen a video where there was that one robot screaming because he supposedly found his way into real life? But yeah, but that was the thing. He was programmed to do that to make a YouTube video. He wasn't programmed with free will, but yes, it's very possible that we could have androids that are humanly synthesized and are fully upgraded to do a lot of things that humans can't, like run up tall walls and stuff like that. But it's just like, but that's a different, okay, the game does it differently, and that's one of the things I didn't have a problem with it, because advancements are being made in technology, and yes, one day we could possibly have like similar looking androids that do more things, but also do less things than human beings. For every advantage, there is a disadvantage.
Oh yeah, I agree. I completely think that androids, in the sense of, robotics, can be created. I think that if we really tried, we'd be able to figure out how to make something look so human that you kind of forget that it's not. That's far down the line, though. But I mean, it's just that, I don't know. Free will is a weird topic, though. Androids by themselves being used for specific creations and things like that. That's completely possible. But you have all the conspiracy theories about like Alexa and Google Home and things like that. How they're listening. But even if like,
okay, so just to repeat, what you just said is that it's possible that human creations could possibly have free will one day.
No. That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying androids, as androids, not living beings, are capable. Living being androids, like, them coming to the realization that they are androids and becoming a thing.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's a bit of a different topic. That's a hard topic to crush, especially when, you're Christian like us. And I understand that there's a lot of things going against it. But I mean, even with Christianity, I mean, it's not complete free. How about this? This is my theory, and you can debunk it if you feel the need necessary. But I believe that we completely have the capability of creating a form of free will. Like, you could program it in some way eventually, but you can't actually create 100% free will. Like, nothing can actually have free will like we do. There can be a form of it, like they can think and they can process and they can make decisions on their own. They just can't necessarily, if even with the free will that we give them, if we then told them to, stop and don't do anything else, then they'll automatically stop and they won't do anything else.
Yeah, and that was one of my biggest problems with the game in general, because it was a part when it was when they were sort of breaking out of their surroundings. The fact of the matter is that they weren't programmed to do that. They weren't even programmed to simulate that. I mean, the worker droid was programmed to work. There was no defense protocol on her that made her turn into this.
Well, actually, I don't know how far you are into the game. One thing that is said, the creator of the first android, the first working android, he talks about how he left in every system of an android a escape hatch. He didn't say what it was used for or what it would entail if they did go through it, but in every android there is an escape. Now, the topic arises of what that escape would lead to, if it would be free will or if it would be
because they do have a problem with self-destruction, don't they?
Yes. If they get too stressed, they can actually self-destruct.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a weird topic.
Yeah, but me being in the middle of it, I guess I have like less idealism than that. But the fact of the matter is that when I look at it, it's the fact that they break through this wall, and I get that they have a way out sort of thing, but that means that the guy who made the first Android would have had a break in free will. He would have had to been able to break free will down to a series of programs to put into a robot. The fact of the matter
That's
is that
true.
I'm saying
That's
that
true.
that would never happen because of the fact that you still have to program it. You can simulate free will all you want. You could say that, hey, if a robot turns left, then it would turn left, and that was his choice to turn that left. But the fact of the matter is that it wasn't. It was programmed to turn left. I'm saying that if you bring up like a philosophy or an actual like if you, like okay, this is a big one that came up even inside of the video game in the second episode when Marcus was going to paint. The fact of the matter is that if you saw the struggle a little bit in the first 5 seconds of him painting, it would have been that he would have gone up to the thing and he would have said, try to imagine something, and he wouldn't be able to. It's the fact that a robot can't imagine. It's programmed with everything it knows. It's not inventive. I guess people can learn. Sure, they can invent to learn, but it's learning based on logic and all these other things. You don't know how to break down emotion correctly, especially inside of robots. You find it a lot in like Siri. You ask her to you ask her, tell me a joke. She doesn't make up the joke. It's already programmed into her. Like, you ask her to be happy. I mean, she doesn't really say anything. I tried it. Like, I tried everything with Siri. It's so weird. Yeah, but she has a response for a lot of things, but she doesn't have a response for everything. Yeah,
that's true.
And the fact of the matter is that she couldn't invent something. That's actually the reason why a lot of video games nowadays are like looking forward to the future, because yes, we'll get to the progression where a computer can think more than it does now, to where it can progress, but to an expansion rate. So say there's a limit from one limit of the universe to the other. It can create all these different outcomes, but once it gets to the topping point of all the outcomes, it won't be able to make any more. What the difference is in humans is that we're born as children, we don't know anything, and then we learn as we go along. And yes, that's the logic part of it. But as far as like the motion and the imagination within humans, robots will never be able to do that because humans can't crack it. The fact of the matter is that feelings, emotions, what I like to refer to as pathos, because it's used a lot in like Greek literature as a form of speech. It's the fact that they couldn't understand, they couldn't compute the logic behind that, because there's no logic in emotion. There's almost no logic whatsoever in emotion. And there's a lot of things with like imagination. We could imagine a 50-foot tall whale eating a smaller shark if we wanted to. In fact, I just did right now. If you asked Android to come in, it could repeat what I just said. It could imagine a 50-foot whale eating a shark. But the fact of the matter is that it couldn't invent something else from that. Like, it couldn't imagine a dragon flying across the sea and picking up a bunch of fish and eating it. It wouldn't be able to do that because it's not logical. There's nothing to connect that to what it would say. It had nothing to connect that to what it would do. I mean,
Well, okay, there's two things that I kind of have with what you said. The first one that I had, something I wanted to say, was with Marcus in the game. For those who haven't seen the game, this isn't really a spoiler, but basically, the android is serving an older man, and the older man is a painter. He asks his android to paint a picture for him, and he wants the android to do it without copying anything. He wants the android to paint something of his own, free will and imagination. So the way he accomplishes this goal is he tells the robot to close his eyes and paint whatever comes to his imagination. Basically, I agree with you. His imagination has to be programmed in, so whatever he thinks of, it's what somebody has programmed him to think. But I'll get on that topic in a second. Now to the second thing. You said, how did you word it? You said when a robot is told to think like a whale or whatever you said, part of me has the thought that, kind of like what Ultron did in Avengers 2, he was able to scour the internet, the entire internet. Part of me thinks, what if a robot doesn't necessarily have the capability to imagine the way we imagine, because we can just pull something out of nowhere. That, like, it's just out of nowhere. I'm thinking right now of a spider that's swinging on a rope. That is just random. But what a robot could do that could be compared to this is it could have so much programmed into it, or it could actually download information about anything off the internet, because the internet is so expandable now. It could just randomize whatever couple topics it thinks of, and then that could be expressed as its own thought, because it chose which random objects to think of. So technically it could imagine, but I don't think it can't imagine something that doesn't already exist. So it would have to somewhere, sometime, it would have to have been mentioned for a robot to be able to imagine it. So, I mean, a picture of God, like a literal picture of God's face,
Which is impossible.
which is impossible. It wouldn't be able to draw a picture of it. But if it was told to draw a picture of God's face, it could recreate the picture that was told by the child who died and said that he saw Jesus' face. If that makes sense. If it is once said and once seen in real life or said, it can realize that. It just can't think of it itself.
But again, that's what I'm saying. That's like the separation between the painting. The first time around, he copied, well, according to Jacksepticeye's playthrough, he copied the table perfectly. He printed it out. The fact of the matter is that when he then imagined for himself what nobody else could, that's when you run into a wall. I mean, you could take this much information from this one place and this much information from this one place and mash it together, but that's all you'll get. It's like, we can think of some sort of, like, there's an amount of logic that goes into our random along with the amount of not logic, but a robot can't do that. It's to the point where, imagine it took a yo-yo and it took a wagon. It would mash that together, but it wouldn't come out to something. It would be it would be like, it would take the red from the wagon and put on the yo-yo made. That's all I taking color and putting on background. But to truly combine, it's like a living yo-yo is pushing a wagon. It couldn't do that. It would mash up together to the point where it would look like pea soup, to the point that it would be so methodically random that you couldn't see the connection to reality at all. And that's the problem. Because with the amount of information sorry, just real quick. With the amount of information that I'm sorry, you had a rant too.
No.
With the problem with that is that it has such a vast majority of information that the connections between the information, like, this is over here because not because it's blue and not because it has a specific word, but because it has a similar, I guess you could call it vibe. It can't relate that one to another. It can relate some things that are specific, like a lot of like the filtering in YouTube. Like if it cusses too much, then this was original. But if there was like something that was restricted, it goes through the video and finds the restricted like information, like a song. The song correlates with tune and word, but you can't. It's not like you making a new song from that song. It wouldn't be able to say that they're similar. It would say that they're different, and in that way, that it would look totally black and white. There wouldn't be a middle ground. It would just be. It would be the same area. And I mean, I guess we could get the robots could get advanced enough to actually say that this is a pile of it because they're compiled into it, but they wouldn't be able to. It would either be really expansive or it would be really much too defined. They couldn't like do it off whim. They would have to analyze it logically. They couldn't do it emotionally. They couldn't imagine something new from that. Like, actually, music's a good.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they can imagine. My theory is that robots can imagine, but they can only imagine what has been told to them or what they can find out. They can't imagine something that isn't somehow capable to them. So we could obviously take time to think about something that does not exist, something that's never even been mentioned before. That is something that a robot could not do. But if a robot wanted to think of a man on a boat swimming in the middle of a lake, it could, because the idea of man, the idea of boats floating, and the idea of a lake, it could bring that all together and think eventually. I'm not saying now. I'm saying eventually it could put those concepts together and make a image that which would be counted as an imagination, but it can't make something that isn't available to them.
This is okay. This is where the vocabulary is breaking up on it. Because I never said a computer can't think. That's exactly what it is. It's a computer is a thinking machine. That's what it is. But imagination is something different than thinking. Thinking is being able to take point A, point B, and say they come together at this location. While imagining is something completely different. It's taking it out of the blue. You can't imagine something that somebody else imagined because you're not imagining it. You're just thinking of what they imagined. So I guess this is where the vocabulary sort of broke up on us. So I can see where that, like, okay, because I thought you meant that they could imagine from this end and this end and put them together. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually a good way to put it. I don't think that computers can imagine. I think that computers can think to a unbelievable level, which some people could see as imagination, but what imagination truly is, it is not.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when people say literally, but they don't obviously mean literally. Like, oh, I'm literally dead right now. Well, they don't actually mean that they're literally dead. That's what imagination would be for robots. It would be they can imagine they can pile up information and make an image for you, but they can't actually have the true idea of imagination.
And see, this is where the video game, in my opinion, gets really messed up. Because when you see Marcus and all that, he was programmed to serve and to obey and all that. But the commander in chief, or like, what is it, Charlie or something? Chuck? The artist dude.
Who? Wait.
The artist dude whose son,
Oh, the artist was I have no idea, Charlie or something.
Okay, but he didn't tell him to make a robot revolution. He didn't teach him how to steal. These basic concepts were never programmed into him because they would never be needed. And
well, okay.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't programmed into him, but like the game does suggest, there is an escape hatch. Now, he doesn't give a full definition of what the escape hatch does, but maybe, just maybe, the escape hatch allows him to be able to scan and take in information, so that way he could learn about the idea of stealing and the idea of rising up a revolution. Now, doing it is another thing. I just think the information of a revolution and things like that could be given to him once he escapes his coding, like in the game, the way the game suggests. But escaping the coding is a really hard topic to hit. I would say if the game's logic was real and they had a back door that they could somehow stop if the problems arise, they could maybe take in information and they could think. They wouldn't be able to imagine, but they could think for themselves. I don't know. It's a weird topic. I think they could definitely think for themselves. They couldn't imagine. They could just work off of what they've learned, like a computer does. I mean, if you do a simple test with Google, if you're doing something on the internet, Google actually is able to, if it's open or anything, it's actually able to take in what you've looked up or seen online, and it can then program in ads that is based off what you've looked at. I've seen it happen to me 1,000 times. Like when I look at a mic on Amazon, the next day when I start to look up something on Google, it'll start suggesting different types of microphones to me. That's kind of what I would think an Android does.
Yeah, you can clear.
I think an Android would be able to take in information and learn from it. What it does with the information, that's the hard topic that we would hit.
Okay, I'm going to circle back to what you were saying. You know when you said that they could pick up information and manipulate that and use it to mimic like imagination and stuff like that?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. That would make every robot a sociopath. They would
How do you figure?
because the sociopathic idea. No, I'm not talking. I'm fairly sure. Yeah, sociopaths are the one that can't feel. They mimic emotion, but they can't actually feel. They would be going through life trying to get the best out of it by pretending that they have emotion. Emotions aren't the thing is with it is that that's like they never programmed emotion into them. They showed them how to mimic motion, but there's no way to actually get emotion into a
Oh
robot.
yeah, I completely
that you
agree.
could do.
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like totally, completely. I don't think that there's any 0% chance that androids, robots, whatever, have the capability of feelings. Like that's impossible. Mimicking, like you said, you use the word mimicking, and I actually really like that word. Mimicking something, I think would be possible. Actually doing it themselves, that's impossible. Some like in the game when the robot cries, that's impossible.
Yeah.
That can't happen.
Yeah.
When the little girl would get cold, that's impossible. But I mean, the idea of cold and the idea of crying, they know it, but they would have to fake it in a way. They'd have to they would have to pretend almost to be able to do it. They wouldn't actually be able to cry. They wouldn't actually be able to feel warmth and feel cold. They're just machines. They're at the end of the day, they're just pieces of plastic.
And that's what I'm saying. Now, if you reroute that back into the video game, every character that you play as is doing exactly that because they can't actually feel. If it was to this point that everything was calculated and everything was basic information that they put into like creating this development that they couldn't actually care about anyone around them. They could there's this like justice in their head that's been put in program to where the drug abusive dad is more villainous than the innocent child. That's very possible. But the fact of the matter is that she couldn't get attached to either one of them for the fact that she couldn't actually feel the emotion towards them. She knows what she should feel towards them, but she doesn't actually feel them. And that's the point where it could be that she could realize that the kid that she's been dragging around is no longer the best thing. And she does one thing wrong. She trips on a stump and bumps her head. She's now defective and she ditches her. Want to know why? Because logically, it would be the only way for her to progress with this like justice system. That the more perfect you are, the more well desired you are, and the more you would develop towards society. And even with the company you see in itself, it's a very campaign. So when you really think about it, it would be to the point where it would adjust everything for its own desires. Well, not even desires because they can't really desire it, for their own well benefit, their own situation to progress. They wouldn't be able to see a red and yellow thing and choose between the two of them because they would be the same. If they were exactly the same minus they wouldn't choose between either two unless they were programmed in their head to say that logically the blue would be more satisfying than the red.
Yeah, I agree. With the Kara story with Alice, I don't know how far you are, but I mean, eventually you'll be able to tell, even by now, that Kara has things for Alice, and eventually down the road, you'll say that she loves Alice in a way, like a family would, like a mother to a daughter.
She wants to be her mother.
Yes, but the problem with that, like I said, you can know what love is or what the definition of love is as an android. You can't actually love something. That's something. Part of me has a feeling that the most realistic story in for those of you that don't know, the whole story of Detroit Become Human is exactly.
Yeah.
There's 3 stories. One is Marcus, one is Kara, and Alice, and then one is Connor. Marcus was a regular android and eventually was, he was destroyed, right?
Marcus.
Oh, never mind. Well, never mind then. Spoiler. But Marcus basically eventually is able to rise up, and he becomes self-aware, like we've been talking about.
Wait, so
and he
you're
becomes...
saying that after he gets out of the junkyard, he gets destroyed?
No. That's what I was talking about. I was talking about the...
I'm on episode 4. He wasn't destroyed. He was just broken.
Yeah, he wasn't destroyed. He broke, and then eventually he was able to repair himself, and because of that, he just started to become more self-aware. Then you have Kara with this little girl, and she slowly but surely grows this relationship with the girl, and eventually down the line chooses to love her as a mother would. Marcus and Kara, their stories don't really make sense. The idea that Kara can love, and the fact that this is one that I can use that isn't that big of a spoiler, but it is a spoiler. Marcus ends up falling in love with a girl, if you choose the right path, obviously. But Marcus eventually falls in love with a girl. So you have one robot that falls into
It's north, right?
Who?
North?
Yes, it's north. Yes, it's north. It's north.
Sorry, that was me. Like
Yeah. But basically, you have one machine that is able to love in let's be honest, a sexual way. Not in a, sex way, but in a sexual way. He loves the image of her. He loves, kissing her, that kind of thing. Then you have Kara, who loves this little girl as a mother. She wants to protect her. She wants to hug her. She wants to keep her warm. Those two things are impossible. They can know what sexual love is. They can know what motherly love is, but they can't actually feel it themselves. Connor, which you and I are talking about, is the most realistic story.
Because he follows protocol.
He follows protocol no matter what.
Yeah.
His way out is so hard to hit, and even when he's out, he still isn't fully self-aware. He's just there. He just knows what is real and what is fake, but he knows at the end of the day that he is fake. He knows that he's an android, and he knows that he doesn't have free will.
Yeah.
He knows what free will is, but he knows that he can't completely accomplish it. Excuse me. He can't completely accomplish it.
Because it would
be
impossible.
It would be impossible, and he knows that. That's the thing.
That would be like a guy trying to jump off a roof to fly and hoping that the adrenaline would kick in and let him fly, but sadly he would die because he can't.
Yeah.
Or like even to the point where it would be like a person, even standing on the floor and they're trying their hardest to jump off the floor and fly away, but they can't. It's that. I wouldn't want to say a feeling, but it's the fact that there would be that border that they couldn't break through. It would be like a steel wall that even though they can break through their programming into a second set of, and it would have to be a second set of programming that helps them manipulate what they know into a new set of programming, which would be the learning robot, which develops as time goes on. You see it a lot with like video games and stuff like that. The earliest one would have been in something metal. No, wait. It's the one with Solid Snake in it. Okay, I haven't actually played it, but I've heard a lot. There's a boss battle with I think it was Liquid Snake or something like that. And basically it started manipulating with the thing according to like what you already done and all that. It's weird. But basically it's to the point where it could think about what you already have done and associate the thing with it, but beyond the stance of logic. It wouldn't be able to. Okay, another thing is, well, and now that we know we're on the same page here, I wanted to throw this one in later on. It's a metaphor. So imagine we've made two societies with the exact same geological structure, the same, like, everything. Like, the laws, we don't have any laws. It's just like Adam and Eve with with a group of robots and a group of humans. And we would have to assume that they were both sterilized to make this scientific. So they would both not be able to reproduce because we cannot make a reproducing robot. That'd be really weird if we could, though. But say we look at these and we put a mysterious new metal in the ground, something that nobody's seen before. They don't know how to use it. But we come back to them like 15 years in the future. We see two things. We see this society of robots, nothing's changed. They see the metal, but they just dismiss it as a rock because there's nothing that would have been past that. They couldn't see how it could be used for something else because it's never been seen before. And when they were programmed, they didn't know about it.
Yes.
Travel
yes.
to the other guys, they have put it to use somehow. They have seen it as either like a conductive energy, so they connected it between like a lightning rod and to make like a conductor or something like that. But the fact of the matter is they could be
a lightning
inventing
rod and
with
what?
it. What?
A lightning rod and what?
And like a wire to like because
okay.
the thing with lightning rods is that you put on top of a building, it connects with that and goes to the floor. They would be able to make things out of that. And yes, the robots, if it randomly struck it the floor, they could make that into like they could see that it could do that, and out of necessity they could invent one, supposedly. But these guys, the humans, they would be able to see things past that to where they could like modify things and see things develop rather than these guys who say, yes, we have logic, but we have nothing past that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, here's a thought for you. Do you think? Now, I don't know what I choose yet, so don't take this in a weird way.
Oh, okay.
But what would you think about the idea of androids being able to have free thoughts, but not free will including imagination? So they can think whatever they want, they can think however they want, and they can think whatever they want. You know, but I mean, free will and free imagination, like like we've been talking about, which is impossible. That's impossible, but they still can think whatever they want. Eventually,
I'd say it'd be superfluous because they could think whatever they want. They could put point A and point B together, but after they do that, they wouldn't be able to do anything with it afterwards. It would just be. It's sort of like they see an ice cream and they see a cone. There's nothing in their head to say that this ice cream goes on the cone, so they eat the ice cream and the cone separate. They could think about the ice cream and they could think about the cone, but that's all that would be. They would be able to think about it, but they wouldn't be able to make connection.
That's true.
So it'd be
I see where you're going.
Superfluous.
Smile for the camera. Look at that. Oh wait. Oh, can you please please oh, come on.
It'll be on
it's okay. I'll send it to you. Hold on. Okay. I'm sending it to a friend. So I'll send it to you as well. Okay. How do I do that? I tap that.
Hey, animator versus animation just made a new short.
What, the Minecraft ones?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Have you been watching those? Pretty good.
Here, this one's gonna be for the thumbnail, or at least a post on Instagram. Oh, you guys are about to see the good stuff.
Okay, so you know how they had like stripper robots and stuff like that in the game?
Yes. Be careful where you're going with this. Be careful.
Anyone who would buy one of those is committing fornication. Just saying.
Is committing what?
Fornication. It's having sex outside of marriage, but also with nothing. It's the idea that basically it's not a living being. It's not. The robot's not a living being, and so it's sort of like a sex toy.
Yeah.
This is really weird coming out of my mouth. But anyways, it's used more as an object to satisfy the human lust rather than it having emotion, it being able to have a soul. It's more of just bleh. You get what I mean? It'd just be anyways,
no, I get you. The whole idea
considered a sinner.
Yeah, the idea of them being used for sexual play, that's weird. I don't like that. I mean, Sadly, I mean, if we're talking real here, the world would come to that place if androids became real.
Oh yeah, totally. But I'd
But
say
yeah,
that there would
that's
be
just
a lot more religious backlash than there is in the game. I mean, there's a black guy in the first 5 minutes who says that they're demons, but there would be a lot more backlash towards that. These things that don't have souls.
yeah. They don't have souls technically, which is
They don't.
that's
Did you
weird
say?
to think.
Yeah.
They do not have souls.
And that's the other thing.
Wait.
Okay, you know when they were in Jericho first time and Marcus saw that robot who said, "Do you know what happens when we die?" And he's like, "No." Well, I'm about to find out. The thing is that she would shut down and go into nothing because we don't like. There's a thing that my pastor likes saying.
Yeah, that's true. They wouldn't feel anything. They wouldn't.
And-
Nothing would happen.
And we don't have heaven or hell to put them in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They just go to the junkyard.
Yeah, they would.
The eternal junkyard.
Yeah, they could be rebooted, but that's only if they like were able to sufficiently preserve the data. But they wouldn't be able to. If they truly died, like if they turned off and never turned back on, that'd be it. It would be what a lot of atheists believe that would happen after you die. Nothing. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I would have either committed suicide or mass murder by now.
No, yeah. Where are we at? We're at
And you
39 minutes.
And you guys can hold me accountable for that. Just saying. A lot of people would be dead if I didn't believe in God.
Well, what else do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about more? Do you want to talk about more of this topic, or you know what we could talk about? We've discussed the Android topic.
Okay.
We've gotten kind of a we've both come to pretty much the same conclusion that free thoughts can pretty much happen. They can take in information and they can make something out of it, but they can't have free will or free imagination because, like the word literally, which is used wrong, it's just not possible. 100% at least, it's just not possible. They can take information and do something with it. They can't take in unknown information and make something themselves. They can't. It's not possible. So we've come to that conclusion. But I mean, let's answer the question at the end of the day: are androids in and of themselves capable of being made eventually?
Yes, but there are, as I said, they're
Yes,
already being made.
obviously. Yes, exactly. So we've come to that conclusion. What we could talk about now in the next 20 minutes left that we have, we could talk about technology in general, other forms of technology that we haven't actually discussed yet,
And
like
specifically,
self-driving cars.
exactly. I knew that's where you were going with that.
That's the first one we can talk about because I mean, obviously,
so well.
well, yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's one of the topics that's actually being discussed nowadays. Like, self-driving cars were in the game in the year 2038, which the thing is, they were all high-tech and they were completely perfect, but they're being worked on now in real life. So, I mean, the idea of self-driving cars is already a good, not good. Good is the wrong word. Self-driving cars are already an idea that is possible, but that's what we can talk about. We can talk about are they a good idea? What are some rules that self-driving cars should allow? Things like that. So how about you kick it off?
I think that self-driving cars are. You're right. It is hard to say good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot that has to go into it.
With the right care, they can be implemented safely and beneficially. I say that, the programming thing that people have been doing, like, say, if there was 3 criminals and 2 rich billionaires, that they would go into the criminals, that idealism is kind of odd. I'd say that they have to figure something else out. Because you know how a tram works? And all the buses and stuff?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, my idea would be that instead of having the self-driving car go down a road free from any changes and stuff, that it would either turn left or turn right and hit something. My idea would be rather to modify the road to assist the cars. Instead, you know how when you're crossing,
that's a smart idea.
When jaywalking happens though and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah.
That would be perfectly illegal. There would be railing to like prevent people from crossing too soon or too late, to avoid getting hit by a car. And
So you're saying kind of like the idea of trains, but more self working and like, so they're not necessarily on a track, but the roads are made specifically for self-driving cars so that nothing, traumatic happens. You're saying that the roads would be made to actually be used with self cars, not regular cars.
And this is where it gets kind of dangerous as well. Because when you think about it, if that did happen, then all the cars would have to discuss with each other. Oh, and might I mention, if this did work out, like, you know how GPS works? It says one person's here, traffic head.
Yeah.
Each car would have to discuss with one another to see which route is going to be more heavily used to avoid like any waiting, I guess you could say, from like crossing the street and stuff. So it would be a wide amount of machines sharing information with one another, but that's the only way it would be dangerous, because if somebody hacks and like, rearranges it. So
hold on. You're cutting out a bit. Just give the thing a second and then go ahead and start again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it sounds good. Just go off of when you were talking about if it was being hacked.
If it was hacked, then the fact of the matter is that not only would if your phone was connected to your car or something to tell it where it's going, the only thing I could see it being a problem with that would be if it could like hack into your computer and start like hacking into your personal emails and stuff like that. That would be my only, like, a Hive Mind thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's a problem with all the new technology that's going to be coming.
True.
I mean that's a thing. No matter what the technology is, the smarter it gets, the more information it can just take.
But that's the thing. I'm saying that if you adjust the road to be like, instead of having cars, instead of having cars, I'm saying like if you programmed each car to have like a direction, a personal direction, like if you want to go here, you pick a route, like just like GPS, except for you get to execute those orders. That would be a much better plan than having a car that would, like, it would go by itself and it would have that like GPS idealism. But if it ever comes into a problem, it would be programmed to take a life versus somebody else's life. I'm saying that instead of that, there would be counters on the streets and on the roads to prevent people from crossing the street too soon. And if the car ever did like have a problem, that if it could tell that it had a problem, that rather the road and the car would work together to stop. And if it couldn't tell that it was damaged in some way, then the key would be that it wouldn't matter anyway, because it would run into the people in front of them no matter what.
That makes sense. I like that idea. I like the idea that it's not saying that self-driving cars are bad, and it's not trying to get rid of them completely. It's saying that we should make it easier for the self-driving cars to function properly and not make the mistakes that we're all scared of it doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's actually that's a good way of thinking about it. What were some other kind of things that they had? I mean, there was a couple dumb ones. Like they have these scanners that can tell whether or not you're human, but I mean, that's kind of boring. A lot of things were holographic. That's a thing, and I can completely see that happening. But holographic things is a weird topic of how they would, because we don't have that yet technically, right? We don't technically have real holograms. Well, we do have phones. I get that. I'm talking like there's physical. Did you ever see the police lines in the game? Like how they would have the police tape, but it was holographic.
Yeah.
You could walk through it, but it was still there. What is it being shown with? That's what I want to know. How would holographic technology be?
I'm not sure about that. I would say that if it's something as ordinary as holographic tape, it would actually be kind of easy, because the way that holograms work is that they're being shown light from different angles that are all different pictures, and it's creating a 3D model of that thing. But the thing with a 2D thing is that it just has to sort of break the light, I guess you could say. But it would just be to the point where I'm not completely sure how this works because I'm not a scientist, but they would be able to do it with the technology to break up light patterns as they go to form a picture. And likewise, I think that why I was showing you this is that, you know, those like holographic phones that you see. This is the
Kinda,
closer. This is really close to the same thing. I'm saying that if glass and you have light sensors and sensors that go through the glass, you can make one that's completely see-through, but renders things the same way. We just have to get better at making computers really, really small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my dogs are being stupid. They're over there.
Dogs are being stupid and they're over there. You can actually hear
Um,
the door.
I have an interesting technology question for you. Do you think... Okay. I feel like if, with the idea of Christianity, the belief of Christianity and, how God is coming back, I don't think this is possible right now. I don't think that it'll ever happen. That's my personal opinion on my question. But do you think if that didn't happen and we were just able to go on and on and on with technology could just upgrade and upgrade and upgrade forever in life? Do you think that there would ever be a point in time where we could somehow read people's minds? Be able to see things like dreams and see things like what they're thinking currently, like literally at the moment?
Shut up, dog. Yes.
I know how you feel. How would one do that?
Okay. There's actually technology being developed. It's funny because what people think is way in the future. There's like the basics are being made already. There's this guy who made this thing that you hook up to your head that you think of a word or something and it gives back like information to an earpiece that tells you to say something. It's actually really interesting. Like neuroscanners, those are really close to being invented. And I think with enough time and progression, and I'm saying that this could possibly happen in our lifetime, we could have things like headsets that we could like think, it could analyze the brain waves, and it could bring us back information. I'm not saying emotion. I'm not saying it could picture a picture, but information and stuff like that, that could be like translated into your head. Like, that voice in your head that you have? I'm saying that voice can be analyzed through brainwaves. I'm not saying that a picture could, though. I mean, if you were able to break it down to the very pinpoint particles of the picture seeing in your head, I think you could possibly send that through, but you wouldn't be able to sort of picture it the way that we do now. We would have to be trained in the association.
That makes sense. What about memories? Do you think that, let's say that there's a memory that you remember images of, but you do not remember the whole thing. Do you think that technology, with the technology that you're talking about, that with it being able to take in information and with some form of way, it can actually, at times, actually show an image of what you're thinking?
Yes.
Do you think it'd be able to take? Do you think that it would be able to take in information from the past that you don't personally remember?
Oh.
But it would be able to take, because it's still there somewhere. I mean, obviously, our brain, like a lot of scientists have said, is basically a supercomputer almost. Like all the information is in there. That's how we learn and that's how we, progress. Would a computer be able to take some of the information that has kind of just died down in the years, things that we know happened but we can't visualize anymore, and would it be able to re-visualize it for you, show it again?
I'm saying that it couldn't take it out of your brain because, yes, computers are like that, but if you forget something, it's like deleting it. There's almost no way back. There's a maybe convoluted way to do it. But the fact of the matter is that I'm saying that what I'm saying is that it's possible that they could take a replication of the memory. Say, like, you remember this point in time, and they could fill out what was supposedly missing, and they could put that back into your brain, because a computer can sync with things like that, like logic. They could put it into dots and, like, ones and zeros, and they could feed that back into your brain the way that it could make an image in your head. I'm saying that's very possible, because it can break it down. Well, what about... It works solely on logic. Yeah?
What about, maybe not an image, but what if do you think that technology could eventually tell you something that's missing? Not by logic, but like 100% fact. Like, say, because here's an example. Me and my mom, there's a lot of things that we remember happening in my life, she remembers it differently than I do.
Same.
Like when I was younger with my asthma, it was terrible, and I had to wear this machine, like this mask, that helped me breathe better. From my memory, I remember having to sit there for about an hour having to breathe it in to feel better. My mom tells me that it was apparently only 5 minutes. So it's a big
That's
difference. Do you think technology could look back at that memory if I give it the memory and it could tell me how long it actually was?
I'd say no,
No?
because the way that the brain works is like it perceives what's happening in front of you, and it's a bunch of information going into your eyes, and your brain
Mm-hmm.
automatically changes that into image, and it stores it in your brain. So like one person could see a blue straw and one person could see a green straw, but it would be blue and green to the same thing like that. But what I'm trying to say is that your mom, she saw it as 5 minutes. She saw it as not that long. Probably because like she had her own life and she was being preoccupied, and it's not like she was sitting there staring at you the entire time. And you were sitting there with your emotions, thinking that this is taking forever because you wanted to do other things. You just sit there with a thing on your face. So,
Yeah.
I'm saying that in your both of your minds, it was perceived as two different times. However, we could never know from one person's brain what the other one was thinking. And I'm saying
That
that
makes
the
sense.
way your brain perceives it and put it into your memory banks is that it was 1 hour. So if it took it from your brain and put it onto an informational like persona, it would say 1 hour. If you took it from your mom's brain, it would be 5 minutes. Your brain doesn't perceive it as fact necessarily. It's very objective or subjective. It manipulates it to your like perspective, sort of say. So I'm saying
Okay.
it'd be impossible to get 100% accuracy on anything. You can definitely perceive your opinion onto things. I'm saying that it would be almost impossible to get like 100% fact out of one singular person. It'd be like telling a story. Everything changes from time to time because of their own perspective, but there would be no way to get 100% accuracy.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're almost out of time. We're coming close. So how about we tackle one more technology question? But this one is actually kind of like the self-driving cars. Is more like it's actually starting to become real. So yeah, it's something to think about. How do you think the progression of virtual reality will be if life just keeps going on and on and on?
I'd say it's fun. However, movies would be a bit more difficult to manage. I'm saying that if you're like watching a 3D movie, you would be looking this direction while something important is happening in this direction. And for a guy who
That's
like
true.
gets
That's true.
distracted really easily, I could be looking at a mouse running while the main bad guy is getting killed over here. Just be hard to like.
Well, yes, but like not even with movies. Do you think that full full virtual reality is capable eventually? Do you think that obviously it would still be a mask because it's virtual. It's not real reality. But do you think that like did you ever get to see Ready Player One?
No,
Okay, well, I won't go into a lot of topics because if we go by that movie, we'll be on here for another hour. It's worse than Detroit Become Human. But I'll give one idea that they arose. One of the ideas was that they made a suit that could hook up to the virtual reality headset, um, and it would actually since it was like a sensor almost, and whatever you touch in the game you would feel, and whatever touches you in the game you would feel. It's like a whole body suit, kind of like spandex, but it's connected to the virtual reality. So do you think like that one day we could kind of, obviously not fully, but do you think that one day we could make it seem like complete virtual reality, like a separate world in a computer that we can all join would be capable?
I'm saying
We
it's possible, but I'm saying that a full body suit. I'm saying that the correlation between the real world and the correlation between the fake world would be really confusing. Like, when we went to Vegas and there
yeah
was like
yeah
that room, it was a pretty big room to like
yeah
simulate
yeah
us
yeah.
walking through an entire thing. And there had to be those portions where we were like on elevators to like readjust us.
Mhm.
I'm saying that I think a brighter idea would be to look into the way, like what we were talking about earlier with the brain waves and stuff like that. I'm saying, what if you could make a virtual reality thing where it sends information to your brain and you send back information from your brain to where it actually makes like a matrix type thing?
Okay, but if that was an idea, do you think that there'd be a way to be able to connect what I'm seeing in my virtual reality with what you're seeing in yours at the same time so that we could meet up in the virtual reality?
I would believe so, because that would just be like a television, or a video game, like a regular video game. When you think about it,
That's true. That's true.
once we crack the actual idea of how our brain works and sending information from one place to another, and it's sending information from there to here, I think it'd be very likely that we could sort of communicate between that it could send signals from our brain to there, from there, in the essential database back out to somewhere else, and we could see the same image just by the.
So your theory is that virtual reality will one day or can one day be real, but not in the way that we're portraying it now. Not through a mask, but through our minds.
Yes, I'm saying that could possibly happen. I'm not really sure how likely that is. I'm just saying that it'd be really cool if it did.
That's actually a good way to think about it. I didn't think about that.
And I'm just saying that there's that breaking point that we already passed, like being able to like perceive information in your brain. I'm just saying this is like the starter point. Eventually, if we have enough time, that could possibly be a thing that happened. I'm just saying that it would cover up a lot of the real world issues that you would have, because like, how they lived in those little houses. If they had a real world bodysuit, they would basically jump out the window every once in a while.
That's true. That's true. Well, I mean, hey. Hold on. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We've officially hit. Happy New Year! We've officially hit about an hour of talking about the future of technology. I'll do my outro first, and then you can do yours after. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was actually a lot of fun discussing what could potentially happen in the future of technology, seeing as what we could do through androids, through self-driving cars, through holograms, and through virtual reality, which a lot of the ideas, not involving free will, a lot of them actually are possible, and a lot of them are actually coming arise now. So, I mean, hey, technology is coming a long way, and I think it'll get even farther on as we go on in life. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. This has been my bud Zealot for Christ and his pupper dog. So, yeah, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!
This is the outro song. It isn't very long.